Good morning, everyone. A good Chodesh, everyone. Today is Rosh Chodesh Kislev. It is Tuesday, November 17th, the first day of Kislev. Hope everybody's off to a great start this week. As today we recited Hallel, and of course when we hear Rosh Chodesh Kislev, we start thinking about Hanukkah. Hanukkah in the works, Sabah Leinu Latova. That's very, very exciting. We have our regular classes taking place on Zoom this week, women's class this morning, and the Gemara Shir tonight, and lots of other things that are taking place. Please look at the Shul website and pay attention to the Shul announcements. And also there's a special sign-up. We have a Simcha this Shabbos, the Bar Mitzvah of the Stelmach twin boys. So please make sure that you sign up accordingly so we can arrange the seating accordingly. Today on Rosh Chodesh is the Yortzeit. Every year the Yortzeit is observed of Aryeh Leib ben Reb Chaim. That is Leon Lorber. Hashem Yikum Damav. Leon Lorber, who died in 1940. This day in 1940, so you can imagine the circumstances there. But just to give you some perspective, who Leon Lorber was. So today's Dvar Torah and our video is sponsored by the Pantirer, Pines, and Schwartz families. So the matriarch of the family, Baba Lucy Pantirer, so she survived the war with her sister and her mother, Ethel Lorber. Ethel Lorber was married to Leon Lorber. But Leon, who was originally from Poland, and they married and ended up in Russia, but in German-occupied Russia, and he was killed. The legend of the story is that his wife had made him these very, very good earmuffs to deal with the cold, and as a result, he didn't hear the enemy coming, and he was killed by the enemy. But another great legend in the family is how, in order to marry Ethel, he actually had to kind of duke it out or have some sort of duel with another suitor, and he won her hand in marriage. But after his untimely death, she was left with two daughters, and they survived the war together. And of course, we know how the story ends on our end because of the great family that Baba Lucy, she should live and be well, that she produced here in Livingston and in our general area. So today we give our Dvar Torah Le'ilui Nishmas, again, of Aryeh Leib ben Reb Chaim Leon Lorber, who died al Kiddush Hashem in 1940 on this day. Now, one of the things that we said in Hallel this morning was Lo amus ki achyeh. David HaMelech says, I will not die, I will live. It's akin to what we spoke about this past Shabbos when I quoted the beautiful reading of Rabbi Sachs. And again, I can't recommend it enough. If you can get that book, please get that book from Rabbi Sachs, Zecher Tzaddik Levracha. I promise you won't be let down from this volume. And we shared there about this past week, fittingly, was an ode to Holocaust survivors and their willingness and determination that despite everything that they lost and everything that was taken from them, they still had that attitude of Lo amos ki achyeh, that I will not die, I will live. I will live, I will build, I will create, I will procreate, I will have new families, we will have large families. And we have in front of us, in our shul particularly, living testament to this. And therefore, I think this follows through with the bracha that we see in this week's parsha. This week's parsha is a very difficult parsha because we have the story of Yaakov and Esav, and Yaakov pretending to be Esav, and you see it shows some of the cracks in the cement of that family between Yitzchak and Rivka, certainly between Yaakov and Esav, and within the covenantal community in general. And you have to ask yourself, what is it that Esav sold to Yaakov, the Bechorah, the birthright? What does that mean? What does it mean that Yaakov stole the blessing? What is the blessing? And what was the real blessing that he received? It's just words. What did he actually get? But I think that something that gets overlooked in the parsha and the story, because we're so caught up in the deceit and in the ruse, and we're so kind of trying to figure that out, that Yaakov, who's so righteous, how is it that he could behave this way? But at the very end of the parsha, the beginning of chapter 28, and this is after Esav realizes that he's been duped, and Yitzchak realizes that he's been duped by Yaakov, and Rivka says to Yaakov, Yaakov, honey, great job, but you have to leave because your brother's going to kill you. And don't come back till I send for you, which, by the way, she never sends for him. That shows you that he never gets over it, because when it comes to family fights, well, we know how that goes. People don't get over it so quickly. Yitzchak then calls Yaakov. Vayikra Yitzchak Yaakov vayivarech osav vayitzaveh vayomer lo tikach isha mibnos Canaan. Yitzchak summons Yaakov and he blesses him again, knowing full well that it's Yaakov and knowing full well what has just happened and what took place. And he says, don't marry a Canaanite woman. He says, go to Padan Aram, to my family, take a wife from there. And here's the bracha. V'kel shakai v'arech osecha v'yafrecha v'yarbecha v'hayisa l'kahal amim v'yitein lecha es birkas Avraham lecha l'zaracha itach l'rishtecha es eretz migorecha asher nasan Elokim le'Avraham. And may Kel Shakai bless you, make you fruitful and make you numerous, and may you be a congregation of peoples. May he grant you the blessing of Avraham to you and your offspring with you, that you may possess the land of your sojourns which God gave to Avraham. Some may argue that this is the real blessing that he was after. This is the true blessing because it sounds very covenantal. It sounds very much like Avraham's blessing to Yitzchak, Yitzchak now to Yaakov. And this is the blessing that we live by, is that no matter what happens to us, no matter what we go through, we say Kel Shakai. Kel Shakai is the God of protection. When we have a mezuzah on the wall, the name of God that's on the mezuzah is Shin Dal Yud Shakai. That's the God of protection. God is going to bless you, and he's going to make you fruitful. He's going to make you numerous. One would think that a young woman with 2 young daughters who's left in the middle of a war-torn country, what future, what possibility is there? And yet, look, we see it less than 100 years later. We've seen this bracha come true. Fruitful, numerous, be a congregation of peoples, people who have a tremendous impact on what's going on in the Jewish world today, on the future of the Jewish people. A family that's growing with grandchildren, great-grandchildren, beyond that. Just this week, celebrating, we have to give a mazel tov to David Panturer. Also, just got engaged. Mazel tov, David. Mazel tov to the entire family. But that's the blessing of Yaakov that he got from Yitzchak. And therefore, on a day on a yahrzeit of someone that hardly anyone knew, and only have his faint memories and a couple of stories, but guess what? That person lives forever and ever and ever. Through this blessing, that God will protect you, he will make you fruitful, he will make you into a great nation, you'll be numerous, and you'll have such tremendous influence. If that's the case, then truly, lo amos kiechye. Nothing and no one can ever kill us. No one can ever extinguish us as long as we keep the values and the tradition from one generation to the next, and we hold true to this blessing. We do our part, and God does his part. So, on this Rosh Chodesh, when we start thinking about miracles, we start thinking about triumph, we start thinking about Chanukah, so let's think about Aryeh Leib ben Rav Chaim, Hashem Yaakam Domov, the Leon Lorber, who died al Kiddush Hashem, but yet, and even though he didn't see it, but we are all the benefactors of the blessing that he received through his family, similar to the blessing that Yaakov received from Yitzchak, even after all the horrible things that happened. That's the same thing that will come true for us. So I hope that this is something we could think about, something we can appreciate and take stock in. And again, we should all be zocha, we should all merit to see this blessing come true in our lifetimes. We should be fruitful, and we should be productive, and we should have meaning, and we should have meaningful progeny and our own covenantal communities. So again, I wish everybody a Chodesh Tov. May his neshama have an aliyah. We should only have simchas in shul, and I'll see everybody back here very, very soon. Have a great day.